Park Stadium director Peter McKenna has criticised the opportunism of Dublin hotels and the impact that opportunism is having on conference business in the city. So we were wondering just how many hotels do we have in our capital city, and do we need more, and how might that impact on the price being demanded by hoteliers? Tom Barrett is Director of Hotels at Savills Ireland, and he's joined me in studio. Tom, good morning.
Good morning, Pat.
Now, first of all, how many hotels do we have currently, and how many hotel bedrooms?
We've got about 150 hotels in Dublin with about 19,000 bedrooms, and that's about 1/3 of the entire number of bedrooms in Ireland. So Dublin has a good share.
We don't still have enough. I mean, if you take population, Dublin has, 1.5 million in the greater Dublin area. And this is where the business is done.
Yes.
So you'd imagine we'd need a higher concentration for all the business people going in and out. We should have more than we have.
And that's what's starting to happen now. Because what happened from 1995 to 2008 is we built a lot of hotels with the economic boom and tax driven. Dublin got a lot, and so did rural Ireland. After 2008, no hotels were effectively built. So the number of hotel rooms in Dublin has been static since 2008.
Yeah. Meantime, there are hotels around the countryside who are doing well, but others who are seasonal hotels.
Correct.
So they're no use to you, really, in terms of taking the overflow.
It is helping because the airlift in from, say, particularly the United States and Canada, there's over 21 direct routes now into Ireland. And a lot of those people do travel to Dublin, but also travel around the west of Ireland and rural Ireland in the winter as well.
And we know, for example, from talking to Francis Brennan, he was with us at Christmas time, their hotel stayed open right up to Christmas. We talked to Noel Cunningham from Harvey's Point in Donegal. They're 12 months of the year now, when before they
Correct.
were seasonal.
I was in the northwest earlier this week, and there were several hotels quite busy on a Monday, Tuesday in January.
Now, what is under construction then in Dublin, and how soon will we have extra rooms? Because there's no doubt that they are charging a premium because of scarcity.
The market, there's about 83% occupancy in Dublin, which is busy. So that means there's 17% still unoccupied rooms. But obviously it's when people want to come.
Yeah, I mean, if you want a weekend in Dublin, Monday and Tuesday is no good to you.
And Monday and Tuesday is the busiest night in Dublin because of business. So this year there's about 1,100 bedrooms coming to Dublin. So that's about 5%, Pat.
1,100 new beds.
1,100 new beds, be it in extensions or brand new hotels. There's a number of hotels. There's 2 hotels opening in Dublin 8, which would not be a traditional hotel destination.
Whereabouts in Dublin 8 are they?
So that's not far from here in Stephen's Green. You've got the Maldron in Kevin Street opening, which would be about 5 minutes walk away. Yeah. And then the Aloft, a Marriott brand, just slightly beyond that. And then you've got an Irish hotelier, John O'Sullivan from the Midlands, starting to build a hotel nearby there as well, which will open in 2019.
There are a couple of hotels around the back of Dublin Castle, which are in construction or about to start construction. There's one here close to the College of Surgeons, which is also, I think it's
300 bedrooms.
Yeah.
And that'll open probably the end of 2018. I have it in the start of 2019. So we'd have just over 1,000 bedrooms in 2018 and 2,000 coming in 2019. So that's a 15% uplift in numbers.
Now, these are the hotels that are currently in construction, and we know they're going to be finished by a certain time. How many more are in for planning?
Quite a lot. And all areas of the city, Dublin 1, 2, little bits of 4, Dublin 8 obviously, and then the airport. A lot of those are still speculative, and it is speculative from a view of one, getting planning permission, getting through on board Planola, and then the commerciality of it, getting the funding, because you need a lot of equity and you need debt at an affordable price.
That brings me to the next point. Who's building these hotels and paying for them? Because I was talking to someone last evening about the bank's unwillingness to lend even what looked like cast iron projects, and instead you get the vulture funds coming in and say, yeah, we'll invest, but we want 50% of the action, and the rate of interest we're going to charge you is 10%. Well, in other words, they want the coffee and the cream.
And what's happened is, I suppose, you've got the likes of Delata, which is the Irish PLC, which is opening 4 hotels in Ireland this year and lots of extensions. You've got high net worth individuals, and you've got hoteliers who weathered the storm and have built up a bit of equity and the ability to put equity into a new project, and therefore get debt from banks or lenders at an affordable price. Yeah, but it's difficult.
But they have to, difficult. We're talking about the buyer of a second house, not being first-time buyers. They have to find 20% of a deposit. If you're building a hotel, which is going to cost you multi-millions, you're saying that the Irish banks won't talk to you unless you're putting up a very significant chunk of equity.
Yeah, you could be looking for, to purchase a hotel, you could be looking at 60%.
You've got to have, and they'll give you 40.
Debt that they'd give, and you get 40,
60.
But to build, you'd be talking, you'd need to have 50% equity. So if a hotel's going to cost you, say, €40 million, you'd need to have something like €20 million to write the cheque.
So therefore, you may have to go for what they call mezzanine debt, which means you go to a third party who charges you an arm and a leg for that mezzanine finance.
Yeah, and look, the prices of those are coming down. I was just at a conference this morning, people talking about the debt markets, but it's still difficult to get and expensive, even though, as you say, the market conditions look very good to open new hotels.
Do we know what the average cost of a new hotel bedroom is? Now, the cost of the bedroom, people say, how could it cost so much? But of course, you're talking about the public areas, you're talking about car parking, you're talking about the bars, everything else that has to go into a hotel, the plumbing and electrical infrastructure, all of that, broadband and fibre, all of that. But the average cost per room of a top-class room, what would it be?
You're talking really from probably €150,000 to €250,000 for most of what's being built in the city. Mostly 3 and 4 star hotels or apart hotels, which there's a big demand for now as well in the city because of the FDI investment.
Explain that to me, and the FDI.
Well, the FDI, if you think of the likes of the Googles, Facebooks, and down to the smaller players, you've got a younger, more mobile staff. You've got a lot of people who come here for a couple of weeks, 3 months. They don't like living in a hotel room every day.
But neither are they going to cook up a roast on a Sunday.
No, but the bedroom, it's about the size of a reasonable hotel bedroom, but it's configured differently. Yeah. So there's a bit more kind of living space or seating space.
But what they want is maybe they'll have an espresso machine in the corner, they'll have a toaster, they'll probably have a microwave, they'll have a big telly for watching the match, but everything else they do in the local cafe and restaurant.
Correct, and it generates business around, and that's where Dublin, we didn't build for 10 years, so we didn't have that product because it's relatively new. So that is coming. But there's a range of good product coming in the city, mainly in the city centre this year.
Now, what about Airbnb? How vital is Airbnb just to keep the tourist population covered?
Yeah, it's good. It competes against hotels, but it also complements, because some of the people who go to Airbnb mightn't go travel to a hotel. We researched this recently, and there was about 5,000 listings in Dublin. About half of them were really active, and then we heat mapped it where they are in the city and suburbs, and then obviously it looks like how many days they are available and renting. So Airbnb is an alternative, and it's here to stay.
Do you know how much of a chunk it takes of
it's still reasonably small. It's still reasonably small.
Are we talking about 5% of the market?
It's of that nature, Pat. It's of that nature.
Now, for people who invest in hotel bedrooms then, whether you do at the lower end 150 or 250, and obviously the price you can charge for those rooms is reflective of location and cost of construction and all the rest of it. How long would it take you to get your money back? Because it seems to me, doing rough sums, it doesn't cost much to service a room. You've got obviously laundry, soaps, cleaning and all of that. You've got heat and light and all the rest of it. They're costs that you can actually estimate, and I don't know what it might be in a top class. Would it be €30 a day?
And it varies. It's variable, but the bedroom is a profitable end of the business. Yeah. The food and beverage and other services, and when you start putting in leisure and swimming pools, some of these are loss leaders. Yeah. And when we talked about the pricing, the 150 to 250, that's the construction. Then you've got your side costs, your professional fees, your finance, etc.
But would you get your money back in 10 years?
Yeah, you get
easily.
No, you get a good return. Hotels are producing a yield of about 7% in Dublin, and that's higher than offices, which would be down in 4%, or prime retail. And why is it 7%? Because it's a more difficult sector to operate in than building an office, letting it to a blue chip tenant,
35-year
and
lease
relaxing, and you've got Google or the HSE or someone paying a rent.
You've got to sweat the asset in the case of a hotel.
So that payback, but then it provides a greater return for the people who are willing to go into that sector. What we had initially in the economic recovery and building is the cranes coming to Dublin 3 years ago for office blocks. And that was the REITs and high net worth individuals building them. Now there's a greater pool of that happening. Then as people look at the supply coming on there, they look at alternative areas. And hotels, the demand for them has increased, and the opportunities to build other things, then it's weighing it up between residential and offices. And obviously hotels, then it's specific zones. So you need to build in the right location.
It just strikes me that being the way things are booked now through either the big digital agencies, Booking.com or whoever it might be, you can because the price is flexible, you can kind of sell out, because a hotel bedroom that's not filled, you'll never get that revenue again.
Yeah, and that's where the volume of tourists in Dublin still surprises me in the November, December, January, February, which traditionally was a quiet period.
Because online the price falls.
But you've got the flights from Norwegian to Ryanair to Aer Lingus bringing more people into the country at affordable prices, and they're travelling and they're coming to Ireland at this time of the year.
So finally, Peter McKenna's point about pricing ourselves out of the conference business market, is that true? And will the influx of new bedrooms bring us back to where we should be?
The new influx of new bedrooms will help. It won't bring us back to where we were 5 years ago, because we're selling at unaffordable prices. Dublin is now below the likes of Amsterdam and Barcelona, Copenhagen, above other cities. We're probably in our rightful place in pricing, and the expectations is that pricing is probably going to stay the same, but I think availability and the availability of people to book a large number of rooms,
that's the issue.
And people booking conferences, they tend to book quite far in advance.
Yeah.
And I suppose
we want 100 rooms in this hotel. Sorry, no can do. We can give you 5. That's no good.
If you're late, that's the problem.
Yeah.
And you've got to plan ahead.
Tom Barrett, Director of Hotels at Savills Ireland, thank you very much for joining us.